Hello everyone, welcome to McFizzle's Hardcore Survival World Season 5 between the streams 21 and 22. And here we are in the grinder, grinding away. Grinding some skeleton bones. Trying to get that good old sweet XP so I can enchant some diamond leggings. At the moment, I want to have protection 4 and thorns 3. I can make the thorns 3, I can make the mending, but I can't make the protection from villager books. So I really just want protection 4, and then I can go from there. Meanwhile, over in the village, in the tower of extremely hard-working villagers who are there by their own free will, is I'm checking out who the next person is that I have to work with. So I believe it's the daughter of Miss Dalton is the next librarian that I'm trying to create. Back in the grinder, grinding. There's not much room. I've gotten to the point now where I'm having to throw out bones because I've got a full inventory, a full double chest of bones that I'm never going to go through. So I'm just going to throw them out when I run out of, stuff. I could really just throw out everything because. Yeah, I don't think the armor is going to be it's not going to get made anytime soon. So I've got other stuff that I need that has more value to me than just armor that's going to sit around on an armor stand. Just taking a chill out in the waiting room. And then I think I'm going to head off. Seems like. Yep, I must be on a mission for some sand. I tend to run out of sand. So I think that in the waiting room was me looking for the coordinates for where the desert is. So it's like negative 1000, negative 600 or something like that. Negative X is negative 1000, Z is negative 600. So, yeah. Heading over to the desert, getting some sand, trying to catch a rabbit, trying to get a rabbit's foot, and trying to get some ink sacs, I would say. So, repeating that process. We still haven't had the Nether update on the PlayStation 4, which is it has to be coming out soon. I don't do any research into that sort of stuff, but I am aware that there is that Nether update, and it needs when that Nether update does turn up, I'll be able to start working on making a Nether portal to speed up travel to the desert, because it's a good little source of sand at the moment, and rabbits and stuff. There's a village near here. Not that I really need any villages, but yeah, it would be good to not have to go all the way over here, spend half an episode getting over there. But it is what it is. It doesn't really bother me that much when I'm playing. But it would be good to have it shorter. I did notice this time there was less squid, and there was less rabbits and all the things that generally spawn in. There seemed to be less of them there this time. I don't know. I sometimes I suspect that happens sometimes in Minecraft. just when you go into a new chunk or a new area, sometimes the creatures don't spawn right away. But yeah, I filled up my inventory with sand. I got a rabbit's foot, and I got about 28 or so ink. So I think that was me getting the rabbit's foot there. So that was good. Didn't get blown up by this creeper, which was good. He's hiding under the sand. So basically, what I would do is look for a rabbit. If I find a rabbit, I would kill them, and then dig up a stack of sand. And I'd do the same thing for squid. And if it became daytime or it became nighttime and I had to sleep, I'd wake up and do a thing of sand. So we got like probably 10 or 11 stacks of sand, which is pretty good. But yeah, we needed it for concrete. Never going to have enough sand in this build, in this world, I don't think. It's sand and digging, they're the themes of season 5. So yeah, relatively safe over here. It's just that time spent. It has been sort of wearing on me a bit, as much as it did in season 3, where just the repetitive grinding of XP trying to get the right the armor that I want for the to fight the Ender Dragon is starting to become a bit annoying. So I've had a break the last couple of days, the last day or so. Needed to do some work around the house and on my computer. Chunk break. So we're into the third chunk, second chunk in the desert, but I think we're pretty close to the end. I could have stayed and looked for more ink sacks, but I chose to leave. I don't really need the ink sacks as much as I need the sand. The black ink sacks are really only for the giant hole, which is nearing completion, but I've sort of focused my attention on the villager tower at the moment, and the gardens, not the gardens, but the farming around the villager area. So that has sort of, I wasn't sure, and you'll see it later on in this episode, where I'm just sort of running around the tower like I've got no idea what I'm doing, because I'm actually trying to figure out how to set out the farming, beds in a way that is sort of even, and I couldn't figure it out, and now I've decided on a strategy that I'm going to try, because the one that I ended up with on these videos, I didn't like it, and then at the end of that sort of chunk, which is the 7th one of these, the 7th chunk in this episode, I just sort of just go, I need to have a break. This is mentally, it's just doing my head in, because it just wasn't looking like I wanted it. It didn't feel comfortable to me. So And the villager spawner has become a bit of a pain. So this is me trying to get the rabbit back to the base again. And I lost one very early on because he ran into a cactus and then just fell off like 4 blocks and died. This second one got a bit closer. I think we got up to this part here and then he falls down and dies. Just about there. Yep. So that was a shame. Closer, but not close enough. So it's feeling like I'm either going to have to dig my way back or make a pathway or something over to the desert. I don't even know how it could work with the nether. I sort of feel like the rabbit would die going down the stairs into the base anyway, so we'll sort that out in the future, hopefully. So collected some eggs and going to do some villager business. And then the villager tower debacle. So we're into the 4th chunk. It just felt like all of these episodes between the streams was just spent trying to get these farms organized the way I want them, and I just could not figure it out. So the other problem that's happened is I've put a new bed upstairs because all of the villagers upstairs are maxed out, but there's no new villagers spawning in the beds upstairs. They spawn downstairs, which I don't understand. I guess because there's more of them down there, they spawn, but it just means that I've got to somehow transfer the villagers from downstairs upstairs, and it's sort of become a bit of a... I mean, I've got a strategy. It's not too bad, and I guess it'll do for now, but yeah, so I've got to get the little baby into a... It's ideally at night time is the best time because all the other villagers are asleep, so you can knock big holes in the wall and nobody escapes. So then I get him in a boat and then drag him upstairs, as you've seen in other episodes. So at this stage it's looking like that's going to be I'm going to have to do that for every villager because they just seem to spawn downstairs, which is fine, but it would be better if I could just figure out a way to get them upstairs. What I have thought about is making the water elevator 4 blocks wide, so that hopefully they just go in and go up. But I mean, this strategy it's not the worst in the world. It works well enough. And eventually I've sort of got the idea of making the villager tower a huge big open space, much like the main room, the main chamber. So that could be a problem down the road if the tower gets even taller. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But at the moment it's not too bad. At least they're breeding, and I can organize. I can move them around a bit to organize them. So it's a little bit time consuming, but like compared to this whole world, it's probably not that bad. So the daughter of Miss Dalton has been born. Miss Dalton was one of the raptured villagers from the end of the last Between the Streams episode, I think it was. But so Now I'm starting to get trying to with the bartering with these other villages, trying to make sure that I'm using up bone meal, so using the paper instead of a book. But I do think I've just got way too much bones, so I'm just gonna start throwing them out. And I think the armor, I'm gonna have to figure out a new way to sort out the armor as well, because there's too much. I could either make giant dump chests, I guess, and just fill them up gradually over time, or I could just throw it all out. I don't know. It's something to consider. So yeah, here's the great garden bed reorganizing disaster. I'm trying to. I thought, well, I want a 4-block sort of gap between the tower and the gardens, and that's fine. And then at the moment they're sort of 9 by 7 rectangles, the garden beds. So to get them evenly spread around that square of 16 by 16 is impossible, because the numbers just don't add up, and having a 4-block difference in the between. So I started trying out a bunch of different sort of, orienting the squares differently, but then the sort of when you hoe the ground, the direction of the earth is facing the wrong way, and I was worried if the pumpkins were going to grow properly, and it's just one thing after another. And so eventually what I figured out the best, I'll get to it when I get to it. So at the moment I'm just moving these garden beds, so there's they're 4 blocks away from the edge of the tower, and so then I've just moved all of them, so there's a 4-block gap between the garden beds as well. But then the garden beds stick out at the end of the they stick out past the edge of the tower down on the far end, and then they dig into the wall, so I've got to extend the walls a bit. I'm trying to heal that pickaxe, and I just need to dig huge amounts of blocks all the time, so I've basically cleared out all of the crops, and now I'm just trying to sort out where I want all of the villages, the garden beds. And so no sooner have I finished one, I have a better idea and I move that around, and then I don't like that, and then I've got to change it back, and just frustrations build over time. And we're into the second last chunk, and you can see I've spent, I spent probably 2 chunks in the desert grabbing that stuff, one half a chunk getting out there and back. And so, and then I've spent 2 chunks and the remainder of these 2 chunks moving this around. So it's like, just felt like I was there the whole time and trying to breed up these villages. And it's not really anything to do with the production of the farms. Like it's I'm still probably only going to be using watermelons and eggs, but it's just doesn't look right. And just in this set of stuff between the streams, I've just become fixated on it, and I'm trying to get it the way I want it. So I still haven't got it yet. So we're going to go through and I'll show you what else I've how else I've stuffed it up. So here you can see me counting all of the walls of how long this wall is and how long this side of this garden bed is and how long this is and how many gaps are between and how many will be left over if I put this here, and it drives me nuts. Oh, that bit's hanging over, so I'll just dig this bit out. It all started innocently where I just thought I'd do a little, I'll do a strip of the wall here, and then I'll do a strip there, and then all of a sudden I just spent like, because I want to connect the towers up, and so then the ground will need to be, ideally I think I'll have the ground as grass, and you know, maybe pathways, I don't know. I think it'll be all grass. And so yeah, it's been sort of coming to a head, and I think I've sorted it out, but I've got to actually, I'm not going to be satisfied until I actually see it in the flesh. But that, I think it's going to take quite a while, because it's going to be a lot of digging out of the of that chamber. Even on the side that's already dug out, it's going to be a lot of digging over there. So I think in the end it should look good. I just need to figure out what I'm going to put in this sort of, there'll be a big sort of space, so we'll sort it out. It might actually be a good spot for some trees, actually. But yeah, so more of that to come, I would say. I'm still working on trading with. Am I even trading with the daughter of Miss Dalton yet? I'm not sure. And more grinding as we move on in the last chunk. So in the last chunk, you'll see this was the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of gardening, farming these crops. I couldn't handle the uneven numbers, so I figured, well, I'm going to have to just make the numbers even, and the only way that I could figure it out was if I wanted the 4-block gap in between, you know, it's 6, you know, the side of a thing is side of the tower is 16 blocks. I need a 4-gap block in the middle, so that leaves me 12 blocks. So that means each garden is going to be 6 by 6. So that leaves me with these little tiny 4 by 4 gardens, which fit in mathematically fit into the space that I want, and it's nice and even, and I've got the 4-block gap and everything's lined up nicely. But what I'm left with is these ridiculously small little garden beds that I just thought it was ridiculous how small they were. So I've even though I run through and do these ones, I've sort of given up on this idea, because it's uneven, because in the middle you get 4 blocks, so you can't have, especially with pumpkins, you need 2 strips for the pumpkin and the place for the vine to be, and then you have the water, and then so you need 5 blocks really to have 2 rows of pumpkins. So I think it's going to work out, but what the accommodation that I've had to make is it's going to be, the only question is whether the anyway, I'll leave it until I actually do it, and then we'll see if it actually works. But It's you can sort of see my frustration in the high speed. It's just like me going backwards and forwards, looking at it, going, "Is this going to be okay, or is this ridiculous?" And then by the end of the episode, or after I'd done it and turned it off, and I've sort of mentally just checked out of the survival world and just gone, "This is just silly. These gardens are too small." And then I've had this idea away from a game, and I've just thought, I think that could work. I think it'll be symmetrical. The gardens won't be too small. I can still have my 4 block gaps for the most part. Then I can have a smaller gap between these other ones, so it shouldn't be too bad. Anyway, I'm off looking for more ink sacs, and that'll be the end of this episode. Hopefully I'll have a proper episode up, episode 22, hopefully out tomorrow. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all later as we cruise down the river. Bye.